pronouns will take place the place of people or things. So they can either be singular or plural, depending whether they refer to one or multiple nouns. So what do we understand? Because the word is a personal pronoun, it means that initially it will take place in the original spectrum for people or things. So just the basic words, the basic way in which we can replace a noun with another pronoun is called a personal pronoun. So personal pronouns are usually either the subject of a sentence or an object within a sentence. So we know that personal pronouns are of two types. It can either be the subject of a sentence or it can be the object of a sentence. Now, each personal pronoun has different forms depending on its function. So it can either be singular or plural. It can be a subject or an object. Let's look at a few examples. So we are already affiliated with the usages of first person, second person and third person. Hopefully because we are students of classes 11, 12. Yet to revise everything, we see how that the pronouns can be classified in first, second and third parts. By first part, I mean something that is referred to me, myself, I and so on. By second person, I mean the person who I am talking to. So this can be you, your, yourself, yourselves and so on. And then the third person is referred to another person. Someone who is not within our conversation. It's neither I nor you. So it's just another excluding person, so which we call as third person. So in order to explain someone who is not in part of our conversation, we will be saying he, she, one, it, or if it's plural, we will say they. Therefore, singular means there will be only one person, plural means more than one. So you see how for first person it's I, second is you, third is he, she, it or even one. If I use the sentence, one must do what one wants. What does this mean? This means that any person particularly must do what that person, what he or she does. But in that case, if I want to not get any gender, if I want to eliminate the position of a gender in this sentence, I will not be saying he or she. I can just say one. Meaning that this one can be any person, any individual. And then it. And finally for plural, we have third person as they. So how is the structure? We see how for a subject, the singular forms are I, you, he, she, it, one. For object, it is me, you, him, her, it, one. So you see how we already know that personal pronouns can be of two types, subject and object. If I turns to an object, it will be me. You turning to an object is still you. He will turn to him. She will be her. It will be it. One will be one. So only this and this. These are the three things that actually changes while it moves from subject to an object. In the plural forms we see that we will turn to us. You will be you. They will be them. Once again we see that there are two things that actually change. Two words that actually change while moving from the subject to the object. So here are some of the words or some of the list that you must remember while you are doing the lessons for your pronouns, okay? Now, when do we use these personal pronouns? So generally, we use these personal pronouns like I, you, he, she, it, they in the subject position. As you can already see here, we use these words I, you, he, she, it, one in the subject position. So let's look at a few examples. I love playing. I will not say me love playing, right? I am saying she hates being late to school. So once again in this sentence, what are the parts of speeches? Let's see. She is the subject of this sentence. Hate is the verb. Being late, this is also a part of the verb. To is the preposition and school is the object. So definitely because she is the word she has been started by, this sentence has been started with the word she and she is followed by a definite base form of verb, we understand that this word here is a subject and the subjective form is she. Sachin was a cricketer, wasn't he? So we already have learned tag questions, I hope. So in the case of tag questions, what do? We put the subjective form. So in the case of tag questions, because this sentence refers to Sachin. And Sachin here is the subject. For this reason, this part after wasn't, this particular pronoun must also refer to the subject of the sentence. And therefore, it will be he and not him. Okay. Now, let's look at a few more that personal pronouns like me, you, him, her, us, them, they are used in the object position. So, how can I use it in the object position? If I say he spoke to me last Friday, in that case, this is a pronoun and this is a pronoun, right? He and me, these are both two different pronouns. But the word he here has been used as the subject of this sentence and me here is the object of the sentence. It will never be he spoke to I yesterday. No. This is an incorrect sentence. Or I cannot say him spoke to me yesterday. No. These are both incorrect. So I have to first identify what are the positions of the subject or the object in the sentence, and after that I will put them into their particular positions. Let's look at the second sentence. I mentioned you several times in my writing. In this case, I is the subject, mentioned is the main verb, and then we have you. You is the object. So now you say you is continuously you. You both in the subject and the object are the same. So you see that you are right now safe here. In this sentence, even if you did not identify that you is an object or whether it's a subject, it doesn't matter because it always stays in its same position. Let's see this. He gave her a book. So we understand that he is the subject and her is the object. So this is completely fine. I cannot say he gave she a book, right? I gave them a treat. So I is the subject who is doing the work. So I is the person who gave them. Who gave whom? Who gave them. So them is the object here. Therefore, I will not be saying I gave they a treat. It's I gave them a treat. So now that we are done with the usages of personal pronouns whenever they are in the subject form or whenever they are in the object form, now let's look at the third rule, which comes with the word it. So, the personal pronoun it will refer to both animate and inanimate object. What does this mean? Animate objects are those which can be living things. So, like a person definitely is a living thing, a tree is a living thing, a cat or a dog or whichever thing that you consider it to be a specific gender is a living thing. And then an inanimate object is something that has no life. Like this pen, of course, does not have any gender. This board does not have any gender. But of course, this teacher right here has a gender. So I currently am an animate object, while this pen is an inanimate object. Okay? So, personal pronoun it can refer to both. Now, its subject and object forms are the same like the pronoun you. So, just like the pronoun you, it also is the word it is as a subject and it as an object. So let's look at this example. Look at this dress. It is really beautiful. So look at this dress is the first sentence and it is really beautiful is the second sentence. So in the second sentence, the word it is actually replacing what noun? The noun is dress. So dress is what? Of course, dress is an inanimate object because a dress, of course, does not have any particular gender. So, I will be using the word it. Similarly, does he like his new car? Biti is saying he loves it. So, in this case, does he like his new car? So, what is the noun that it's being replaced by? The noun is his new car. So, if I want to replace the words his new car, I can use the pronoun which is it, being an inanimate object. Okay. Now, let's look at the fourth rule that we can use the pronoun it to indicate dates, days, distance, time, weather, etc. So, these are some of the things that we need to know. And another thing we need to know is whenever we write everything down as a list, right before the word etc., it also needs a comma, which a lot of people do not know. Okay, so like it was the 28th anniversary yesterday. So, what do you mean by the word it? By it, I actually mean that this is the 28th anniversary. So, 28th anniversary is definitely a time which you are replacing the word with it. It's 9:30 now. It's of course a time. It's Sunday today, so it's a particular day. It's sunny today, so this is the weather. It's 30 miles today, so this is once again a distance. So in order for you to replace these words, whenever we find distance, time, weather, dates, days, etc., we can use the word it in order to replace them. Okay. Now let's look at another condition. Like let's say there is a story or a novel. So we have of course read or gotten introduced to many different stories and novels in our life, haven't we? So in a story or a novel, when we will find an animal that has the characteristics of a human being, then we will use the pronouns he or she instead of it. Okay? So in that particular story, like in Tom and Jerry, we understand that Tom is definitely a cat. So in that particular story, we see that sometimes a lady cat walks in front of their house, and Tom gets very excited whenever he sees that lady cat. This means that Tom is a he, right? This means that Tom is a male cat. So these are some indications that tell us that Tom is definitely a male cat. So while watching a cartoon or a novel or any of these instances where we see that the animals are put into action, and if we understand their particular gender, we cannot be using the word it anymore. Similarly, another condition is whenever you see an infant, a baby, so a baby that you have to carry in your arms cannot be easily represented by whether it's a male or a female initially. So as a result, right when we understand that this is a baby but we are not sure of its gender, we will say that the baby is it. So we will use the word it for the baby if we are not sure of the gender. But if we are sure of it, then we will either use he or she. So in the Tom and Jerry show, Tom always chases Jerry. He also sleeps lazily most of the time. So here we are using he and not it. Again, we will use he or she as pronouns when we indicate ships, cars, or countries. So once again, we need to know these three things. For ship, cars, and countries, we will be using particularly we will be using either he or she depending on that country. Like Bangladesh, the country Bangladesh is referred to our motherland, right? So as a result, because we say that it is our motherland, we refer to Bangladesh as she. We will say Bangladesh and her beauty is magnificent. We will not say Bangladesh and its beauty. So like you see here, the Titanic was a beautiful ship. She sank pitifully in her first voyage. So I have used the word she as the subject here and her as the object here. Why? Because the Titanic is a ship and it was very commonly referred to as being one of the members of the female gender. Then we see Britain. Britain and her allies did not accept the independence of Bangladesh in the beginning. So Britain and her allies. So you see how the country Britain is also one of the members of it's considered to be a female-based country once again, just like Bangladesh. So we need to know these particular pronouns. Then we see that if we can use he or she if we are not sure of the identity of the person. Like I've already mentioned that for a baby we can use the word it. By the age of 3, a child can comprehend much more than he or she generally speak. So in the case of he or she, I can actually follow it by they if we find that the noun is plural. Like by the age of 3, children. So in this case, children can either be boys or girls. So this is not particularly prominent as of yet. So as a result, I can use the word they. They can do much more than they can generally